Welcome back to Horn Takes, your Texas football and baseball talk destination. I am Sean Redfern. It is a glorious Sunday morning. Texas rolls into College Station last night, shuts Kyle Field up for 60 minutes en route to a 17-7 win over Aggie. Folks, it was a lot worse of a beating than that score indicated. This game was just utter domination by the Texas Longhorns. Just a good old-fashioned country ass kicking is what you witnessed last night if you watched that game. The Aggie tears been delicious. We're what, 12 hours into it. I'm real full. I'm Thanksgiving full on Aggie tears. I'm white girl wasted off of Aggie tears. Always good stuff. Always good stuff to beat the Aggies. We talked yesterday. We did a TikTok video, threw it up on Twitter as well about how we're happy this game's back. And man, honestly, all shitting aside, and I'm gonna dog the hell out of Aggie because I've been listening to this shit for 13 years about how Texas isn't ready for the SEC. I've been listening to it all this year about how Texas hadn't played anybody. So the Aggies are about to catch a whole lot of stuff from me. Not just in this show, but just basically continuously on forever, right? I don't understand why people talk. I really don't get it. I don't understand what's the fun in running your mouth ahead of something only to just get completely embarrassed like that. I I don't know. I don't get it. And the crazy thing is, if A&M would have won, oh, those people would be all over the internet running their mouths about how they knew it and this, that, and the other. But not a single one of them is going to show up and say, you know what, I was wrong. This Texas team is really good. This Texas program is ready for the SEC. So I don't get the, like, if I say something, like, I'm gonna own it. Win or lose, I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna talk shit about it if I do it. And if I don't, I'm gonna say I was wrong. You just don't see that very much. So I don't get why you're running your mouth. Funny stuff though. Absolutely hilarious. Just the amount of shit I have heard from Aggies for the last, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years. Once this move to the SEC got announced, man, it just man, the shit talking crescendoed at a College Station. We'll do Drunk Sean thoughts today, and that's going to be all we do today. We're going to spend the rest of the day looking at the game film, looking at the statistics. I said game film, the game tape, and we'll get a show ready for you guys tomorrow. We'll do the after action review on this A&M game tomorrow. Wrap that one up. Start looking at this SEC championship game matchup between the Georgia Bulldogs rematch. Georgia came into Austin, did enough for about 12 minutes in the first half to really ice that one, put it out of reach for Texas. But then they've gone on and just kind of just look not real good the rest of the way. Honestly, that was the best game they've looked like from start to finish. They looked really good in the second half of that Alabama game. But we'll wrap up with Drunk Sean Thoughts today. And folks, keep in mind, Drunk Sean Thoughts are just that. I have not looked at a single statistic. I have not seen a single shred of the tape, the rewatch of this. Not any. This is all just my thoughts as I'm watching the game last night. So keep that in mind. And true to what I said just a few minutes ago, if I'm ever wrong on these drunk Sean thoughts, I always come back on the after action review and point it out and say, you know what, I was wrong about that. This is what I thought while I was watching the game, but after I looked at stats, after I rewatched the game, I was wrong. It's okay to be wrong, people. You know what it's not okay to do? Not own up to it and just be a big man and say, you know what, I was wrong. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Just like to listen to pods, man. Apple Podcast, iHeart Podcast, Spotify Podcast. We're there. You can find the audio of any of the podcasts, any of the shows there. You can also go to horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. All the audio episodes are there as well. I encourage you to go to YouTube, though. Subscribe to YouTube. Click the little notification bell. Check us out on Twitter, too. We're trying to I feel like we've made some pretty good progress on Twitter. We're pretty I'm pretty active over there. And we got, I don't know, like 800 followers at this point. Not a huge number, but pretty respectable for an old guy that doesn't know anything about twats and tweetings and Twitterlings and X's. All right, folks, let's get into these drunk Sean thoughts. First of all, feels absolutely amazing to be 11-1 in 2024, 7-1 in the SEC, and we just put little brother back in their place once again. It's an amazing Sunday. Last night was an amazing night. I mean, not only did Texas go in there and beat them, but they absolutely stuffed them in a locker for 60 minutes. One play Aggie had. One play. It was a bad play by Texas. And A&M capitalized. You got to give them credit for that. But that's it. The rest of the game was just an epic beatdown. So it feels really good this Sunday morning to have witnessed that, to be sitting where we're at. We're headed to the SEC championship game in year one after not being ready for the SEC for the last 2 years, for all of this year. We just haven't been ready yet. Somehow, this Texas Longhorn team is 11-1, 7-1, sitting on top of the SEC all by themselves. It was great. It felt like that game last night had a big time sort of playoff buzz leading up to it for sure. Like it just felt, you know how I don't know how to explain it. It's probably got something to do with my feelings about the game, sort of my anticipation of the game, my level of anxiety about the game. I don't know quite how to explain it, but to me, that one felt a lot like just how I felt when we went to the Sugar Bowl last year. Sort of all the spotlight on Texas and A&M with game day being there. Lots of talk all week in the media about this matchup, this renewal of this rivalry. How just daunting of a place Kyle Field is. Like it just had that type of feel. And early on during the game, I kind of still felt that. Like this is like a playoff game. We talked about during the prediction on what was it, Wednesday? We had a quick week last week. So I think it was Wednesday. I usually do it on Friday. But we talked about it on the prediction show about how we thought this game would be like one of those games where the offenses just kind of struggle early. The defense kind of carries the play, and that's exactly what we got. And I think the defense carried the play for much of the game. So big buzz, big time, big game atmosphere. Texas goes in there and just absolutely answers the bell. We also talked on that prediction show about this Texas team being built for games like this. and how this A&M program, while they've had, I mean, they've had a good year. You got to give them credit, man. They've. I think A&M has done better than most people thought they would this season. Maybe not much better, but they've done better. It's first year for Coach Mike Elko. They just, and I said it on the predict. The moment is going to be too big for Texas A&M in this game. There's just too much going on, and that's exactly what happened. They did Aggie stuff. Texas just came in very businesslike and just put it on them. Kind of the tale of two red zones. The red zone defense absolutely amazing in this game. Interception by Taft, goal line stop on fourth down late in the game. Earlier in the game, there was a stop. I think it was in the red zone as well. First Aggie drive, I believe. Texas gets another fourth down stop. And then you flip it over to the red zone offense for Texas, and it's like, what in the fuck is going on? Pick six, fumble. I'm not supremely confident in Burt Auburn every time he kicks the ball, but I am pretty confident that where they were on the field, that's another at least 6 points. I think without those turnovers, you're looking at a 23-0 win for Texas, at least, with an opportunity for it to be 31-0. This red zone offense started out really good this season, and it has just kind of steadily declined to the point now where, man, it's almost, I mean, I don't know, statistically, to me, it seems a lot like last year's, which was not that great. Kind of like that one chink in the armor for the offense last year. As Texas heads into this SEC championship game and on into the playoff, which they're most certainly in now, like absolutely 100%, no doubt about it. They're gonna have to figure that out a little better, I think. We saw the duality of Quinn, man. I made a tweet a few weeks ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. Hell, I don't know. I'm old. I lose track of time. But I said something about the duality of Quinn, and I posted a little video that I did, put together some of his really good stuff and then some of his just not so great stuff. Obviously hobbled last night. I mean, the kid couldn't even walk. He had a big revolutionary ankle brace on. I don't folks, I don't know if technology has just gotten that's the exact same ankle brace like people wore when I was a kid. When they hurt their ankles, that's what they put you in. That kind of brace. So I don't know what was revolutionary about it. Maybe it had Wi-Fi or something. But clearly the guy's hobbled. He's got a big brace on. I mean, when he would walk out onto the field, you could just see he was limping. When he moved around, you could see he was limping. But man, I thought Quinn looked really good on that busted ankle. Again, noticeable hobble, but he picked up yardage. He did some really nice things with his legs. On that one run, I mean, he might have scored. I think he was just waiting for someone to knock the piss out of him or something. I don't know what he was. I mean, he kind of hesitated and acted like he wanted to step out of bounds and then realized, like, okay, there's nobody here to tackle me. I'll keep going. But he did get a little bit over the stripe. I don't know if he scores there, but man, he certainly could probably pick up another. And the other thing, I don't know exactly where he was on the field at that point, but I feel like he had at least another 20 yards in him, probably. I thought Quinn made some really nice throws down the field too. And that's something where he's really struggled. So it was really nice to see him put some passes a little bit down. I mean, they weren't like we drop back for 5 seconds, chunk it down the field 50, 60-yard type passes, but still got the ball down the field a little bit. And I thought he was really accurate. He made some Quintavious type plays. Like, holy shit. Like the ball he threw to Helm, it reminded me of like a video game, like an old school video game where the ball just goes through somebody. That's what the replay looked like. It looked like the ball went right through that A&M defender. I have no idea how he fit that in there. And I wish he wouldn't do that, but my God, that's some pretty good stuff. That ball he threw to Jaden Blue in the end zone, absolutely perfect. He did get pressured, made that bad throw that kind of brought Kyle Field back to life for a little bit there in the end of the game. He did get lazy on that one scramble. I don't know, man. I think you just get down. Fumbled the ball. I mean, if you're not going to get down, you got to at least secure the ball. But overall, man, I thought that was a really, really tough, gritty. I know his ankle is hurting. 100%. Dude, you don't put a hard, stiff brace on an ankle like that unless it's pretty weak. So you can add toughness to the Quinn Ewers resume. List of list of things that are good about Quinn Ewers. Toughness for sure. As I was watching that game last night, especially in the second quarter or second half rather, like Sark just puts way too much pressure on his quarterbacks. I think he just overthinks like everything. Sometimes the most genius thing you can do is the most obvious thing. And to me, last night in that second half, the most obvious thing to do was to never throw the ball a single time. They didn't need to. No reason for it. And if you look at the two turnover plays, they were plays where we got down into the red zone running the football and we just decided to throw the ball instead of just keep pounding the damn rock. I don't get it. I really don't. And I know I've been talking about this for like 2 years. And I'm going to always just keep talking about it because there's an example after example after example of bad shit happening when Sark just says, you know what? We got to throw it. I got to pass. It's like he is addicted to passing. And it's really unfortunate because this offensive line, I feel like he's wasted it this year. And a lot of people out there are going to point to the stats and then they're going to go, oh, well, da 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 da. Yeah, man, but a lot of that stuff is like in the fourth quarter of a game with a big lead. And that's when Sark finally goes, oh, we need to run it. What you saw last week against Kentucky and what you saw this week against Aggie is exactly why he recruited every single one of those guys that's on this offensive line. They are freaking big. They are mean. If you get in them in some power blocking schemes, man, they will absolutely just mow over just about anybody. I hope that Sark kind of realized after that game last night that this team can win a very physical, low scoring game if you just lean on the run. I mean, last night's game really reminded me a lot of sort of those SEC slugfest type games we used to see like early on when the SEC kind of rose to prominence and started winning a lot of national championships. We saw a lot of big SEC games. And they looked a lot like that. Just run the ball. Yeah, you take your shots downfield. I'm not saying holster the pistol and never throw the ball. What I'm saying is save it for a deep shot. I mean, we used to watch like those Alabama and Auburn games and LSU and Alabama games, low scoring and it was just battering ram football until finally someone made a big play. Most of the time it was in the running game or something on the defense. That last night is how you're going to beat Georgia. You are not going to beat Georgia throwing the ball all over the park or trying to throw the ball all over the park. You just are not. And if we go into Atlanta this next weekend and try to do what we tried to do in Austin, I don't think it's going to end well. We'll see. Nice cameo by Arch Manning. Man, I love that wrinkle of bringing him in. Got the scoring open up. Real tough run by Arch. Not sure why we kind of treated him like a wildcat quarterback every time he came in the game, though. I mean, I don't recall. Maybe it happened. I don't recall us ever throwing a pass with Arch or even attempting anything but sort of a zone read look. Aggie caught onto it pretty quickly. I know we tried to do it in the red zone at one point late in the game, just didn't work at all. But good to see sort of like a little package for Arch to utilize his running ability. Talked about this game being an attitude game in the trenches last week when we were previewing this game. It's a type of game that if you're an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, you just want to go in and just be bigger, better, faster, quicker, stronger, meaner, just flat out better than your opponent. And the offensive line did it big. I mean, they freaking flattened that Aggie defensive front. I have not looked at the I know Quinn Travion Wisner had just Trey Wisner had a massive game. A&M had absolutely no answer for that Texas run game whatsoever. They kept Ewers clean. Excuse me. Little pressure. They'd get us. I know he got sacked at least once, but for the most part, he had a lot of time to throw the football. Special shout out to Trevor Gooseby. Kelvin Banks goes down in the first quarter. The all everything left tackle, first round draft pick. In comes Trevor Gooseby, and he did an outstanding job. Depth. We've already talked about the defense. That defensive line absolutely dominating, like suffocating. Vernon Broughton, Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Alfred Collins. I can't think of their names, and I'm sorry that I can't, but I see their faces. I see their numbers. Those transfer defensive tackles that came in the offseason. Baron Sorrell, they just freaking flat out whipped Texas A&M up front. We'll dig into the stats tomorrow for tomorrow's show, but this is about as thorough of a trench warfare ass kicking as you can possibly have. Kudos to those big men, the big humans, for stepping up in a big time game on the road and just completely dominating their opponent. Obviously, I wasn't there, but Kyle Field kind of sounded like a dud on the broadcast. I'll be really interested to hear some thoughts from those that were there. I'm going to try to get a live stream set up this week, sometime in the PM this week with the SEC Unfiltered guys. And I know Chris Phillips was there. I want to ask him what he thought, and I'm sure he's going to put out, he was in College Station for the game, so he'll have his little video montage that he does everywhere he goes. Really good content, by the way. If you guys do not, and you should know who they are, if you follow me on Twitter and you watch this show, you've heard me talk about them for sure. So they're big time. They're pretty big time. If you don't follow those guys, man, the content is outstanding. This might be the best, absolute best defense that Texas has ever fielded. When you consider what teams today have to defend versus what they had to defend in the good old days, it is just absolutely amazing what this defense is doing. They are so elite at all three levels, and they have so much depth. It just does not matter. As offensively, I would absolutely hate to have to play this Texas defense. Talked about the front group, man. Those linebackers, active, speedy, making plays all over the place. Mean. You saw David Benda get some run in this game, and man, he showed up. His role has sort of declined as the season's gone on, as Leonga Lafau has come on at that linebacker position. Well, man, he got some play last night, and he was there. He was in there wrecking shop, making tackles. The secondary improvement from last year to this year, just absolutely unbelievable. Kudos to that coaching staff. Credit to the recruiting by that staff, and big time credit to PK for putting it all together. I got to be honest, PK, I don't necessarily have anything against PK at all. I don't, and I still don't really like the style of defense that they run. But man, there's been a lot of people out there that are like, fire PK after year one. I'm like, well, that's obviously crazy. Can't fire a coordinator in year one. And I guess you could if you're like Oklahoma and you suck really bad and you just make terrible decisions over and over and over. But if you're trying to build a program, you don't just go fire your defensive coordinator because it didn't work out real good the first year. So I was kind of in between. Like I was like, I don't like what I'm seeing, and I don't necessarily like the style, but I realize it's year one, and they've just gotten better and better every single year. And now I realize what PK wants to do defensively, and if he has the right pieces, how well he can do it. How well he can sort of put those pieces in the right spots at the right times. Just ridiculously suffocating. I think Texas needs to find some elite kickers somehow, some way in high school, transfer portal, go overseas, open up a tryout. I don't know. To me, it's like the one thing that's missing from this team is like some elite kickers. Bert Arbor, and I don't want to bag on him. I mean, he's not bad, but he's missed a lot of kicks this year. And it's weird because he has the leg. He's made these types of, I mean, as a freshman, he comes in his second game and just blasts one from like 47 yards against Alabama to give Texas the lead late in that game. Just like unconsciously. So I'm not sure what's going on with it's like a focus thing or something. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But he has missed way too many kicks this year. To me, the punting just is it's not even close to being a weapon. I don't know, like the leg just doesn't seem big enough to me. You see some of these guys Like, their team will be backed up deep, and they can just absolutely knock the piss out of the ball. And I mean, completely flip the field. And I don't think. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think Michael Kern can do that. I just don't think he has that kind of leg. So again, not trying to be really critical of those guys. I think they've done like a pretty decent job, but to me, like, I don't want special teams that can just do a pretty decent job. I want special teams that's a weapon. I just don't think that's there. I think looking forward to the SEC championship game, it looks like we're gonna have two banged up, tired teams in Atlanta. Yeah, you had Georgia with that 8 OT game against Georgia Tech, and that was a physical game, man. If you didn't see that game, go watch the replay of that game. You want to talk about tough quarterback? That Haynes King kid is a tough quarterback. I think, you saw a really physical brand of football by Texas last night. Got some guys a little banged up. Kelvin Banks, not sure what's going to be the deal with him. You never like to see it when someone comes out of the game, but when he came off the field, I mean, he walked off under his own power. He didn't seem to be in a ton of pain. Maybe it was precautionary. I don't know. We'll find out certainly in the next couple days. We'll start to hear little bits and pieces about that. Probably hear something today, to be honest. Just looking at the way Quinn was, I don't think he's going to be 100% even by Saturday. He'll probably be better unless he hurt himself again in this game, but kind of unlikely with the massive armor he had on his ankle. But he surely won't be 100%. By the way, folks, I got an email. I mean, I don't remember exactly when it was. It seemed like it was pretty quick after the end of the game last night. I got an email from Texas saying, "Hey, man, you got tickets to the SEC championship game." So that's awesome. The problem is my dumbass didn't look at the calendar. And I booked a trip for me and my wife to go on vacation, kind of celebrate our 25th anniversary. So I cannot go. So if you need tickets, I don't know what I've got yet. I know there's a range between $150 and $305 per face value. I won't find out until Monday or Tuesday what they've charged me, and I won't find out probably like where the actual tickets are for another few days, based off the email I got. If you're interested, DM me on Twitter. I've already had a ton of people do it. I mean, they're probably gone, but you never know. And I'm not trying to rip nobody off either. I look at this as like an opportunity to get a couple Longhorns to the game that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity, and also kind of save them some money. We won't be adding fees to this like the resellers do. So Drunk Sean thoughts. There they were. We'll be back on Monday. We'll do our Trace Ultra Games recap on week 14. That'll be our last Trace Ultra Games for the season. Do that after action review on this Texas and Texas A&M game. As I said before, we're trying to get the SEC Unfiltered guys on for a Horn Takes live stream this week. Hopefully sometime in the evening. Talk about this SEC championship game. Talk about the weekend of games. I know they've already done all that, but I'll have them on. We'll do it again. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a subscribe. Give us a follow. Won't cost you guys a thing. We sure do appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. Feels good. I'm going to go drink some more Aggie tears the rest of the day. You guys get hooked.